Hi, and welcome to Wavelength Wednesdays. I am your host, Waveney, and every week I bring you tips and strategies geared towards connecting, inspiring, and influencing you to being your best in your personal life and your professional life. And so it is the last Wednesday in April, and April started out really scary because we were going through this entire pandemic thing. We're still going through it, of course, but we have had curfews, we've had 24-hour lockdowns, we've had to adjust. Now we have relaxed days, and so it started off a bit rocky, and that is putting it mildly. But today I decided that to end April, and I've spoken about topics to help us cope, myself, what I've been doing, what I think we should be doing, and I shared those, spoke about the future of work, spoke about mental health last week. I spoke about money and things that you can do to save and, you know, um, where we can scale back. And so if you haven't viewed those videos, please go and have a look. They're really good. They're really, really good. And you have the time. We all do these days. And so I thought that I would end April with a great note, And so I decided today that I'll share with you how the people's brand came about. And so this is what we're that I am speaking about today, because you have been looking at these videos, viewing it. You're on my Facebook page, you're on my Instagram page. Many of you have met me and said, "Great job! You've texted, you've messaged, you've WhatsApp, you've saw me in person, and you've really expressed your kindness and your appreciation for the people's brand." And so I don't think I've ever done and I've spoken about bits and pieces. So today I decided that I'll do that. And so let's jump into it and get on the same wavelength. All right. So I made a few notes so I wouldn't forget anything. So let me start first with a quote. And I love quotes, right? So it's a Buddhist quote, and it says, "Your purpose in life is to find your purpose and to give your whole heart and soul to it." I'll read it again. Your purpose in life is to find your purpose and to give your whole heart and soul to it. And this quote is so fitting because it is what and how I feel about the people's brand. I feel like this is my purpose. I feel like I have now, yes, I've found it, right? And for many of you who found your purpose, who've stumbled upon that one thing or many things, because I think that sometimes it isn't one thing, it can be multiple things. But for those of you who stumbled upon that, and it doesn't have to be that you are an entrepreneur, it doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be that you are a mother, you're a parent, you're a father, um, you are maybe you are in the police, you're serving in some way, and you found your purpose. And so that's how I feel about my baby, the people's brand. And so I wanted to start off with that. And so the people's brand is really an expression of me. It's an extension of me. It's an expression of me. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's an expression of my beliefs, right? As it relates to people, and their jobs and careers and life in general, because some people, they're in jobs but it's not their career, they haven't found that thing that they love. Or some people, they are in jobs and they have a side business, they have a business, and that is the love of their life. And so it is an expression of what I believe about people. I believe people are inherently good. Many of you know that my background is in human resources, which I love dearly. And so um, I really have certain beliefs about people and jobs and careers and so forth and life. And it's also an expression of my values. And so you would see that coming out um, in many of the things that I do in my videos, um, in my training. For those of you who have had the opportunity of attending my any of my training classes, or have gone to your business place to train, you would see that expression coming out. And such expressions such as values such as kindness, which I really believe in, um, being open and honest, um, being an inspiration for others and to others. And so you see that coming out in the people's brand. And at the end of it all, it's really about the legacy that I want to leave behind on this earth. Um, when people come into contact with the people's brand, I want them, my hope, my prayer is that they are changed in some way, shape, or form. Even if it is just a seed that is planted in their minds, because seeds take root. And sometimes, if you've ever planted anything, I did back in high school, but we all know how that process is. You plant something and you leave it alone. You leave it alone. You don't hover over it. You don't try to dig up the earth. You leave it alone and then it blossoms. And that is really what um, I want to leave behind, my legacy. So it's an expression, an extension of myself, the people's brand. And then I get to use what I call my superpowers, right? And your superpower is anything that comes natural to you, that is your innate ability. And so my superpowers are empathy. I have the ability to get into what people are saying. I can understand them totally. They can sell me a situation, not sell me, but explain a situation, and I totally get it. So much so that there's certain movies, I don't really look at TV, but there's certain movies that I wouldn't look at because I am in there. I suddenly forget that I am just looking at the TV. I get so involved. I'm very empathetic. And so that's one of my superpower. The other one is I'm very intuitive, very intuitive. I pick up on things easily. Sometimes I discount this, I discount myself. I say, okay, maybe it's not that, it's this. But the more I get older, the more I get wiser, I realize that these are the things that have worked for me. So empathy, I'm very intuitive, and I can connect easily with people. No, I'm not the first to make friends. So if in a room full of people, if I don't really know you, or if I'm not getting a vibe from you, I probably won't say anything. But empathy, intuition, and connection. And I get to use all three with the people's brand in what I'm doing. And so let me just tell you the backstory. So in high school, I've always been interested. I'm sorry, in the business subjects. I chose those. Chose biology one time, but it was not me, right? So I've always had that interest in the business subjects. But throughout the course of my life, I would say that I've always wanted to have my own business. And but then this would pop up. I would have that thought, and then something would say, "But what would you do? Like, what could you do?" And honestly, I couldn't come up with anything. Like, what was I good at? I couldn't see what I was good at. I didn't understand my superpowers back then. And I wasn't as confident back then. So it would be a fleeting thought and it would go. And I never really mentioned it, expressed it really to anyone. And so that really was it until about, it could have been 2017. It was 2017, and it was the latter part of 2017, around September, October or so. And I was having a conversation. We were with a friend. We were in a conversation and we were talking about entrepreneurship and we were speaking about business. And I casually said, I've always wanted to have my own business, to own my own business, but I don't even know what I would do, what I'm good at. I mean, could I really make money from HR? Like, what could I do? Right? And let me first say that I know you might say, well, you could do consulting and da 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 da, but I'll get to that in a minute about consulting and stuff like that. That is not really me. So I was like, what could I do? Really? Because what would make my soul sing? Right? What would make my soul sing? And so he proceeded to remind me of a few things. So I had this thing where I love quotes. I don't think you know how much I love quotes. I love quotes so much so that I would be on the net and I would see some, and I started sending them out via WhatsApp. So I created a little group with persons who appreciated them, and I would send them quotes. At that time and period in my life, I was getting up at 4 o'clock every morning. So when I got up, I would send out the quotes. So when people got up around 7, around 8, they would see those quotes. So he proceeded to remind me, you send out these quotes, these inspirational stuff, right? And I got really good feedback from them. Then he reminded me about that people would call. Like sometimes I'd be home and people would call and they would have issues on the job, they would have challenges, they wanted advice, and they would call. Sometimes it would be people that I work with. Other times it would be people that that I didn't work with, and quite a few. And I was really surprised. I had a few persons that were referred to me by friends of mine. I didn't know them, they didn't know me, but they said, "Hey, this person told me to call her this issue," and this is me. This is what I love to do. I love to help people, and so I would be dishing out advice like that. And then lastly, he reminded me that during that time, at my primary job, Park Hyatt, we were recruiting. We were going through that mass recruiting, and a lot of the times I would see people there that they didn't have proper resumes. They would have potential. Lots of them, you could tell that they were just nervous. When I spoke to them, interviewed them, chatted with them, made them comfortable, I could see the potential in them, and I would push them forward. But before I push them forward, I would say, okay, so don't do this, don't do that, say this, say that. Okay, let's practice. Shake my hand like this, do this, smile. This is hospitality, smile, And I did that for quite a few persons. I did that for, and they were successful. There were some that were not successful there and then, but eventually there were, and there were some that, of course, it couldn't help because I can't help everybody, right? And so he reminded me of all those things, and then it became really, really clear to me that this is it. It's coaching, because that's what I've been doing. I had been coaching, and I had been doing it. When I look back, I had been doing it all throughout my career in HR. A lot of the times, many people think, and you're probably one of them, I'm sure. Somebody's out there thinking that HR is about just hiring and firing and writing people up, and HR um, managers or leaders are mean, or they this or they that, and they've had, and I don't blame them because they've had very unpleasant experiences with human resources. But I'm not the typical human resources type person. But I realized that I was a coach. I had been a coach to many persons. I had been a cheerleader um, to many persons, and I didn't so much want to go into, when I thought about it, I didn't so much want to be a consultant to companies, because that would take the the people element out of it. And what I mean by that is, I like having direct contact with the people on the ground. So um, most of the times with consultants, they are speaking to the board of directors, they're speaking to the owners of the company. Um, they are implementing stuff. They may have one or two conversations. They may have some interaction with the employees of the company, but that's about it. What I wanted to do, I wanted to be about the people, right? Because I like that. Um, I really, it really drives me. It really makes my soul sing. It really gives me that energy when I'm able to help somebody, and it is so fulfilling, right? And when I think back over my career, I could remember, I could remember that there was this person, this lady, and she had the opportunity to go to another country to work, and she was scared, and she wanted to go, but she was scared because she had a young child and she wasn't sure. And I remember saying to her, go and do it. Your mom will take care of the child. Go and do it, and make something of yourself. You could do it. And I remember being that coach and cheerleader for her. And now I am very happy. She is, I think she's a general manager. I think that's what she's doing now. And she resides overseas. And so that is, I'm really happy. When I have seen her success over the course of her life, because she does keep in touch with me, I am so proud of her, so proud of her. I remember this other incident as well, where it was a close friend of mine, and it was going to be her first management position. And she was afraid, like we all are when we're doing something new, let alone when it's your first leadership role. And she was so afraid. And somebody was saying to her, um, she was basically being offered the position. And management had said to her, hey, we think that you're a great person for it, think about it. And she was scared, and she was going to turn it down. And I remember her telling me that she spoke to um, one of, like, another person who was a manager, who had been a manager, and they said, "But you don't have the experience, so I don't understand, yeah, why are they doing this." And I remember saying to her, take the job. I will help you. Take it. take the job. Everybody has to start somewhere. If they didn't see something in you, they wouldn't. And I remember having that conversation, and I'm proud to say today she is in a senior leadership role. And so when I think about things like that, um, it is what drove me, what inspired me to conceptualize everything that is the people's brand. Because again, going back, it touches on my superpowers: intuition, empathy, connection, and so many more, so much more attributes that I hold dear. And so then I decided to craft the concept of the people's brand, and I got about doing it. So that was 27, the later part of 2017, right? And then you would think that I would just jump into it, but I didn't. I got afraid. I had everything written down. I had a notepad and I had everything, not a notepad, actually, it was a book. And I had everything written out. I wrote out the concept. I wrote out the tagline. Um, the other thing I did not mention while I was recounting those experiences, the other thing that I thought about when I was conceptualizing everything, when I was thinking about being a coach, that I had always been a coach and a cheerleader. The other thing, that experience that I had, is that at that time, I was a facilitator, a trained facilitator for the company that I was working for. And I was working then at the St. Kitts Marriott, and I was a certified international facilitator. And basically, what that meant was there were certain core programs that you could only facilitate or deliver that training on if you were certified, right? So there were a few, you could do general trainings, but only if you were certified, you could teach these core training. And there were quite a few of them. And I was certified. And it also meant that I traveled to deliver training. And don't get me wrong, it was very scary at first, speaking in front a room full of people, persons at senior leadership level, you know, at that time. So all of those, when I think back on all of those experiences, I was made for this and I didn't even know it. All these life experiences, all these work experiences that I had been getting, all those interactions, things that had happened to me in my career, because people tend to feel like you just arrive at your destination. They see the success, but they don't see the struggle, and it's true, right? And I've been passed over for promotions, justly and unjustly, right? And so I understand when I'm speaking to someone who has been through that or who's not going to get a job, I know exactly how they feel, So all of those have primed me. Those are my foundation, and I conceptualize the people's brand. And so let me go on. I don't want to miss anything. So I went back there on my notes. So the approach with the people's brand is really a holistic approach. I didn't want to be just a consultant to companies. I wanted to be there for people, because I see, and I've seen throughout my career, that if you don't have somebody to guide you, to mentor you, a lot of people need that. A lot of people, they don't know what they don't know. And many people judge and say, oh, especially when it comes to resumes, oh, they thought they teach that in school. Well, they don't, to everybody, because everybody doesn't have a resume. The other thing too that is quite interesting about my experience is that I have worked for local companies and I have worked for two, and I am working for one now, but I've worked actually, yeah, for two international companies, actually three, because I left hospitality and I went into manufacturing, and that company is based out of the US. So it is a different type of work ethic than in the Caribbean. And I'm not saying this in a demeaning way, but when you have diversification in the workplace, where you have persons, expats coming in, and persons that are local, there could be a lot of conflict um, sometimes. And I back then I used to be like that. Um, we can be, as Caribbean people, very passive aggressive, in that we are upset with something and we are not going to say anything, or we feel as though we are not a fridge and we have to say what we have to say, and we don't care because we're not a fridge. And so all those dynamics, all those nuances in communication, styles and differences and culture, meeting of culture is a very real thing. Um, all those experiences has helped me um, in the people's brand and will help me in the future. And so my approach is holistic, because you can't separate your work from your personal life and from life in general. There must be a balance. If you were to tell someone, don't bring your problems to work, um, that's impossible. That's impossible. And especially in hospitality, where you have to bring your whole self to work. It's emotional, right? It's a very emotional type industry, because it's all about service and body language, and it has that different element where as opposed to in the bank, where yes, you have customers, but it's still different. You're serving all the time, right? So it's really different. And so my approach, I wanted it to be a holistic one. I didn't want it to be just all about work, 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 which is why you will see a lot of the content in the People's brand is very broad, very holistic, because I want to ensure that you are set up correctly for success. All right. And so it's all about balance. And so I created my logo, and it wasn't designed by me. It was designed by Chavez from Shabo Productions. He did an excellent job. I just gave him minimal instructions, told him the colors I wanted, um, and he came back with that amazing logo. And so it's simple, because I am not an over the top type of person. Um, I should add that I use the color yellow. I love bright colors, right? Um, and you would know this because I always film outside, and even now that I'm inside, you can see my pretty painting of flowers, and my drapes are it's vibrant, right? And I chose yellow because yellow is warm and inviting, and I wanted people to connect with that, right? My tagline is connecting, inspiring, and influencing, because the People's brand is here to connect. And when I have connected with you, then I can inspire you, and then I can influence you to change the behavior. All right, whatever that behavior is, whether it's to be your best self or to change a destructive habit. And so that was really the approach and the why behind the People's brand. And so that was 2017. I had all this conversation, got out my notebook because I was inspired and I had all these things going on. But it wasn't until June 1st, 2018, that I actually created my Facebook page and I launched it publicly. And I'm going to tell you, fear is a very real thing, and it is something that we need to be mindful of because it can cripple. And that's really why I didn't start until June, because I had been delaying and postponing and was afraid, and it's like, okay, who's going to listen to me? And even with all my experiences, I still had those doubts. So I finally, with courage and friends that were very supportive, that pushed me. And it's not it's not about, when we have a gift, it's not about us. It's not about us really. um, because to have a gift, I believe, that God has given us, and not to share it with the world is a disservice and a disrespect. And I believe that. And so I launched the People's Brand, and I started out with my signature training program, called Jumpstart Your Career. And I started out with that because, like I mentioned, during that time, the hotel, we were recruiting, and I was seeing so many inconsistencies in people's resumes, if they had one. And as I mentioned before, the work I had to do to support um, candidates. And so I thought that, you know what, I'm going to launch a People's Brand, but I want to do it with a training class because it's needed. There's a market there. And so that's why I started Jumpstart Your Career. I created everything. And this is how you know you have a gift, because things come naturally to you. I have the ability, and it probably goes back to that facilitator training, right? I have the ability, if somebody tells me that they want a training, I customize all my training. I can sit, I customize it, I tailor, I tweak, I put together all the PowerPoint presentations, can put together the workbook, and it's easy, 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 right? For me. Um, so I did all that, started with Jumpstart. I had 3 cycles, training cycles, or 3 classes, but each class was 7 sessions. And to date, it's about 30 persons that graduated. More persons attended, but 30 persons graduated, many of whom and I who and I are still in close contact. And so that was really successful for me. So then after I did that, I launched coaching. I have some coaching packages. When my website is out, you're going to see more about that. And then I had an event this year in 2020. That's going to be an annual event, and it was called Intention 2020, helping persons to, and supporting them really with their intentions for their lives for the year. That was really successful. And so that is, oh, I've done training for companies as well. And so that is really the why and the how the People's Brand came about. And I wanted to share that with you because I feel like you're viewing these videos. Many of you have supported me, whether you've referred my trainings, these free trainings, to a friend or family, whether you've purchased some of my products, the People Brand mugs that I was selling, the journals, which by the way, I still have more journals, or you've attended a training or you attended an event. Many of you have supported me, and I feel like it's important for you to know, how did the People's Brand come about? And that is really it. And so what I really hope that you enjoyed this little chat, right? But what I wanted, of course, I have takeaways for you. What I want you to take away other than knowing what the people's brand is all about, I want you to take away three things. One is that everybody needs a coach or a mentor in their lives. And this is not a sales pitch, okay? This is not a sales pitch. And I said that because with the absence in the absence of a coach or a mentor, a lot of us, many of us would not be where we are today. I certainly wouldn't, without guides, without mentors. And people need that. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping people and about the people's brand. Um, because I've worked hard in my career to get to where I want to, where I am, right? And so people have helped me, people have guided me. Some feedback I didn't really like, um, and others I liked, right? But people have helped me, and people need coaches and mentors. And even now in my business, I do have a mentor that I can, tap into. And you need it because um, you need someone with an unbiased, unfiltered, no agenda type person. In this day and age, you have to be so careful, so careful. And so think about that. And like I said, it's not a sales pitch, but we do need that. I feel people need that in their lives, especially if you're all about progressing, especially if you are an ambitious person. Um, Whether you decide to start your own business or it's just about your career, we need a mentor. The second thing is that we need to flow in your gift, flow in your gift. And when you understand and recognize that you have a gift and a purpose, that's great. Hallelujah, you've got it. Yes, right? But most importantly, what I've realized, and I'm speaking from experience, is that you recognize your gift, but you also have to align with source. And I'm a very spiritual person. So for me, it's God. For you, it might be source or the universe or Jah or Jehovah or whomever. But when you find your gift and you align yourself with your spiritual side, you are unstoppable. And I've seen it throughout the course of my life when I look back in retrospect, but even more so now that I'm doing the people's brand. And then, thirdly, I want to say to you, do not fear. And it's not to say that I am fearless right now. I am fearless with some things, but I do fear still with many things. But I've had to remind myself not to fear because fear can cripple persons. And if I had given in to that fear, I wouldn't be sitting here today telling you about the people's brand, right? And so do not fear. I read somewhere that do not fear is written over 300 times in the Bible. And so that's important. Do not fear. Um, if you never try, you never know. You have to try. You have to try. You have to do the thing that you think that you cannot do. And so I wanted to leave you with those three things. Everyone needs a coach. Get a coach or a mentor. Flow in your gift and align with source, align with spirit, and do not fear. And so come to the end of Wavelength Wednesdays. I hope something I've said in this segment, I know it's a little bit different, but I wanted, like I said, I wanted to end April on a positive note, on a high note. And I certainly hope something that I've said has resonated with you. If you'd like to be coached by me, please send me an email at hellowaveme at the people's brand at the people brand hello wave me at the people brand skn.com. Don't ask why it's the people's brand, but it's hello wave me at the people brand. That's another story for another day. um but it's hellowaveney at thepeoplebrandskn.com. Send me a DM. Let me know what you think about this segment. I would love to hear from you. If you're shy, just put an emoji down below, and I would appreciate that. And so, thank you once again. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned, because it can only get better with the People's Brand. Bigger and better, and is ahead. All right. And so I will see you next week on another Wavelength Wednesday. Bye.